fourth weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup. We're in rainy Winterberg in Germany in the Hochsauerland. First European race weekend has been greeted with what everybody in Europe has experienced this winter, quite a lot of rain and drizzle. Welcome back, everybody, for our coverage of the final race of the weekend, the four-man bobsleigh. Crowds and umbrellas lining the track. Martin Haven and Anne van Nieuwenhuis warm and dry in the commentary box. And Anne, probably the best place to be on a day like today, but you'd still rather be sliding, right?
I'd still rather be sliding. It's not too bad to be in the dry while the athletes have to warm up in the rain at this moment. As we see here, the track, pretty steep downhill from the start line to curve 0, and it flattens out in the upper part of the track. Curve 1 and 2 is a very big, quiet curve. You want to be doing less steering, be very gentle on the steers, especially these four-mans. They have a lot of weight, so you don't want to be doing too much. Keep them in the middle of the track. Avoid the little taps and bumps we get there in the middle of the track. 4, 5, 6 have we seen yesterday as well. 270-degree Kreisel down into curve 8 and 9, where the big pressures get and where the speed is starting to build up in the big right curve, curve 11, into the labyrinths. Can be a little bit trickier with the four-man sleds because it's so tight, and then uphill into the curve 14. But it seems the ice is pretty forgiving at the moment. They're down in the labyrinth, so very nice work of all the track workers.
Yeah, they've been working really hard in these conditions. The water does not help. You can see the smoke there from the refrigeration system, which keeps the ice frozen. Francesco Friedrich is our World Cup points leader ahead of Brad Hall, winner last time out in Lake Placid. 2 wins to Francesco, 1 to Brad, his first career four-man gold. A big day for him, and he will be part of our field again. 16 sleds. We welcome back Romania, we'll welcome back China, we'll welcome back Latvia and Italy to the field as well. And there is Brad Hall. Look, it's a big day, isn't it, for any athlete when they get that first gold medal, and especially now at the top level, you know, and that was against a healthy Francesco Friedrich, so he's got to be feeling pretty good right now.
He's got to be feeling really good. He's been really close to getting that gold medal, has some really tight finishes with Francesco, with Johannes Lochner, and to get his first win in Lake Placid, it's a huge step up for him to get that gold.
Drizzly car park, at least it's not covered in slush like it normally is, so it's a bit less treacherous for warming up. I mean, this is the high-tech facilities that athletes are used to in this global dominating sport, but the track is predominantly covered, so hopefully the rain should have not too much effect once they're in and into the start. Our start list begins with a relative newcomer, Dobeš, in his first season at the top level, and Li Chunjan of China will be the last man away in the first of our 2 heats, and both of them will count for the overall result. Hansi Lochner goes 11th. Late start draw may not help him here. Francesco Friedrich goes off 8th, and Brad Hall in 12th place. So we're going to have to wait to see where the front runners are. World Cup number 4 in the men's bobsleigh. Four-man gets underway with Dobeš of the Czech Republic, his second World Cup race as a driver. Did a couple in Winterberg on the brakes back in 2017. Mikkel Dobeš, no relation at 2. Andre Radzel and Antonin Vijas at the back, there in the centre, making his World Cup debut in what is now his 6th bobsleigh race.
It's going to be very important for this team to have a quick and efficient load, because the start moves, when they end, you don't have enough time to curve 0, so you really want to be quick down.
See, one of the bobsleigh push handles hasn't quite locked in place. Brakeman won't know that because he's got his head buried between his knees, tucked in at the back of the sled. Shouldn't affect them too badly.
It's quite long on curve 4. Push them sideways to 5, and also that tap and skip out of curve 6. And the brake handle seems to be back in right now. You have some different systems in brake handles to pull them back in, and these seem to be quite loose. Probably driving an older sled already.
Yeah. Dobeš made his debut in Park City, having raced in the North America's Cup earlier in the year. He's raced here a couple of times in Europa Cup in his 2 previous seasons of driving. 55.96. Track record is a 53.48. We may be away from that. That was set in March 2015, which is actually the final weekend of the World Championships. The start record dates back to January's race in 2021. Francesco Friedrich's crew responsible for that. Can't be many start records they don't have.
Here you can see they're long out of the start groove already before they drop in. So it can be a little bit unstable if someone shifts. And they're long on curve 4, crossing over too soon to curve 5, and it pushes him away. And here out of 6, going into Kreisel, having the bump and skid. Just overall, a little bit of small mistakes that build up really quickly on this track.
Well, having had Adam Dobeš in his 2nd World Cup start, we have a debutant, Jakobs Kalander. Started in the 2-man yesterday. The 20-year-old has only had 6 4-man races. Made his debut in November in Lillehammer, not in.
Little bit problem there coming out of curve 0. Some of the guys in the back were still moving around, maybe didn't get their legs wrapped around the person in front of them.
Got Ivo Kleinbergs and Laris Kaufmanis, and a brand new brakeman, Maritz Ladsdans, on the back of the sled, also making his debut.
Had a big skid in the upper part of the track, but managed now to get it back in line, get it nice and parallel. Good looking line, down curve 9, early into curve 11. Controlling it and a nice crossover.
The extra weight and length of the 4-man makes them look more controlled than the 2-man.
It is a lot of weight, so you have more to work with on the ice. But also when a mistake happens, it's harder to correct it because so much weight keeps you in that mistake.
Ivo Kleinberg's man standing up there at 2, riding what's known as cannonball with his knees up under his chest rather than his legs around the driver. Now, I'm not sure if that's normal. No, it used to be the way in Swiss bobsledding. It's extremely uncomfortable.
You can see some people moving up to get their legs in the right position.
Yeah.
Drifting around. Exit of curve 4, and he avoids that tap but drives himself into the skid going into curve 5.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that was just the bodies moving around in the sled, steering the back end for him. There is Jakobs Kalander. So makes his World Cup debut in the 4-man. And next up for Italy, Mattia Variola. 7th World Cup as a driver in 4-man with Alex Pagnini. Fabio Batti making his World Cup debut. And Jose Obu in his 8th 4-man World Cup, originally from the Ivory Coast. And 4 of his previous World Cup starts, actually the brakemen, have been here in Winterberg.
Unfortunately, no Patrick Baumgartner from Italy. He was supposed to be here as well, but got injured.
Yeah, pulled muscles in his back, I understand, during training. So hopefully he will return relatively soon. World Championships in St. Moritz in only 3 weeks.
5:18 start, a little bit slower than the Latvian team, but a better velocity because of that efficient load they did into the sled.
Handled the 0 curve pretty well as well, came out nice and straight, so he's behind a fraction, but now that pays out for him.
Slides a little bit sideways off of curve 4, with no big tap going into 5. And just a touch on the wall before heading into Kreisel. Also there, just a little bit too much pressure, keeping him to the late entrance into curve 8, making it a little bit harder to do the steer. And a skid there going into 11, back and be pushed away on the entrance. Bit of a bang, going uphill, highest speed, climbing through 14.
But it didn't have quite enough. 2/10 back at the line, 55.40. 3rd World Cup race on this track in 4-man for Mattia as a driver. In fact, he is now matching as many starts in the front seat as he has as a brakeman in 4-man.
You see, he had to do a lot of work in curve 8, and then he hits that wall before curve 9, climbs high, in 9, touches that inside wall, and it puts it backhand away from 11.
If he completes his runs, as he should do, he will claim a World Cup best for him. Previous best, 18th place in Innsbruck. That got a little worrying for the man in the back seat.
But as we said, the ice is pretty forgiving at the moment, which is good news for the Junior Worlds next week.
Yeah, but if you put me in a 4-man sled, it wouldn't look quite so forgiving. Taylor Austin next up for Canada with Davison D'Souza, Cyrus Gray and Shaquille Murray-Lawrence. Bronze medalist in Whistler, Taylor Austin, has not raced on this track before, though. Not until this week. 5th World Cup start.
And he had a big start of the season with a medal in Whistler. Well, and a little slip of the #2 guy, but they get him quite easily. Didn't shake the sled too much out of the grooves.
Yeah, that's Davison D'Souza in only his 2nd World Cup start in 4-man.
And it is tricky because the sleds are a little bit wet because of the humidity and the rain that is falling, so possibly a slip of the glove on a wet surface. When they're a big skid between 5 and 6.
Yeah, he's bringing it right back at good speed into the Kreisel.
That's what he's been doing all season, bringing high speeds in his 4-man sled. Bit of a wave there going into curve 9, controls it. Nice crossover from 11 to 12, all the time in the world to turn it in 13. Very high top speed, 133.9. And he's in 1st place.
Yeah, Lyndon Rush, Justin Cripps. Cripps on the left, bronze medalist here 3 races ago. Race 1 in December 2021.
And he's happy with that. Thumbs up from Taylor.
Listening, learning a brand new track, you know, if you're anywhere close to competitive, you've got to be happy with it.
And here the exit of 6, taking the tap and the bit of a skid. Quite high line in the beginning of the Kreisel and then flattens it out. A lot of work in curve 8. Just hits that take on, and that's why he's taking that little peak in the entrance of curve 9.
Track's fun.
The track is fun.
Yes, it is. Marcus Treichel next up with Sasha Stepan, Marcus Sammer and Sebastian Mitra. So Oppa back in the sled at 3. His 55th 4-man World Cup, Marcus Sammer. And 38th start for Marcus Treichel. 5 previous World Cup 4-man races here. Wolfgang Stampfer at the back. Crash here in training a number of years ago was Wolfie's last ever competitive run in sleds. Sebastian Mitra, the former tennis player at the back, 22nd 4-man World Cup race for him. So this is a really experienced crew, and that shows.
5:13 and a really nice curve 0. Managed it well. And he's interesting to see that he's switching around his brakeman. The 2-man brakeman is not in his 4-man sled. So everyone can have a race.
4 guys and you only need 3, it's good to switch them around, try different mixtures, see who works well, who settles well in the sled, and to keep them healthy.
Exactly. Good exit there. Highest speed, nice entrance into curve 9. Good control, flat line, using curve 10 to push him into curve 11. A little bit late going into 12. But a nice exit of 13, just a slight touch on the wall, and 135 kilometers per hour.
That's 84 miles an hour. They are properly motoring in these big beasts.
And he has been finding a lot of speed in his sled this season in the 4-man. Wolfgang Stampfer is known to get a lot of speeds in the sled. So.
I don't know what Wolfie does, but he knows how to massage speed out of sleds, doesn't he?
Look at that suit, he's been spiked a lot.
That's seen a few races, hasn't it?
Exit of curve 6, just slightest of skids. Hitting the back end just before the take-on of Kreisel. A little bit of a dip in the middle of Kreisel. Oh, look at the position of the 2 and 3 guys, perfectly lined up with Marcus. Bit high there, 11.
No dramas for Marcus Treichel, who's having a new lease of life this season. Great to see. And Markus Streichel, leader after our first 5 sleds here in Winterberg. 6 starting crew. Switzerland's Michael Vogt took silver in the 2-man yesterday. This is his 9th 4-man World Cup race on this track. Cyril Bieri starts his 20th 4-man. Silvio Weber at 3, Sandro Michel at 4.
They were in a really good position to medal or even challenge for the win in Lake Placid when they had a mishap in the start. But a nice load here from the guys, 5:14, just a touch there, coming out of curve 0.
That Marco Hubenbecker start mishap all those years ago, no longer the most famous. Possibly still the most famous, but not the most recent. And Vogt was in great form yesterday. He's been having a really strong season. He could be a real medal contender here today.
Good looking run, a little bit of a touch and a skid here and there. Second fastest speed, getting into Kreisel.
This is within hundreds, look, 500s back, second best speed to Markus Streichel.
And this shows how well Markus drove this track.
Still 500s back, little rocking and rolling, better speed into the final corner. Is this going to be a dead heat? Oh, 100th in it.
The coaches are loving it.
Rico Peter on the left-hand side there, he's enjoying this weekend a lot, actually. Swiss bobsledding is in a good place heading into the St. Moritz World Championships in 3 weeks.
I think they're happy they're back in Europe in the more known tracks for them. A load of Michael, number 2 guy. Keeps his legs up for the number 3 guy to go in between.
Yeah.
In and down.
Well rehearsed, those guys.
And there you can see the little hit coming out of the labyrinth, curve 13. That's a lot of lift off of the back runners and to move the weight of 3 guys in the back.
Yeah. 700
that's a lot
kilos
of force.
Bounced in the air like it's nothing. Well, we've had 1 Swiss sled. Here we get Simon Friedli in the 2nd Swiss sled. This is his 60th 4-man World Cup race, his 15th as a driver. Greg Jones behind him. Andreas Haas was in the 2-man yesterday. And Marco Leinberger, only his 2nd 4-man World Cup race, made his debut in Königssee in January 2021. That was the last time he raced in the World Cup.
Had a really good day yesterday in the 2-man. Has been known as a good 2-man driver. Still trying to transfer it into his 4-man drive as well. 5:21.
See a lot of Greg Jones at 2 behind him.
But then he was able to dig himself into the sled.
Yeah, don't do it before corner 1. Wriggle down. And you'll see that in St. Moritz so much. Bobsleds with heads up and gradually everybody wriggling their way down out of sight, trying not to breathe.
Yes, as long as you don't have any pressure in the sled, when it's just going straight forward, there's no pressure, and every movement a brakeman or a pilot makes, it's possibly that your sled will break into a skid.
4 tenths back. This is a top 6 run at the moment.
Good exit there, going late into 11. A little bit of touch. Flops it off 13, very trusting that it would come down.
Okay, 5th place. How far is he behind Kalender of Latvia? 200ths of a second. He is 800ths of a second behind Taylor Austin in 3rd place. So nice little battle shaping up there. .521 getaway gives them a good shot. It's that 5th fastest start so far. But Greg Jones at 2, the tall figure there, waiting to drop in, struggling to get his legs around the driver.
And you can see in this sled, the 4-man guy needs to get his hand into the sled and then pushes 2 little buttons that automatically bring in the side push bars.
Well, the klaxon is for Germany's world and Olympic champion Francesco Friedrich in 2- and 4-man. 76 4-man World Cup start. Was 6th in yesterday's 2-man race, working with adductor strain that he had in sprint training at Christmas. 14th time he has raced a 4-man World Cup on this track. Torsten Margis behind him at 2, Candy Bauer and Alexander Schuller. They're going to do the heavy lifting, and we question whether or not he would jog alongside the sled or whether he'd sit in. There's the answer.
And a 5:12 start with just a jog off from Francesco. So big push from their guys in the back.
The start record is a 4:96 that they set a couple of years ago. You can imagine they'd have been very close to that with a fit Francesco.
There, the skid out of curve 4 avoids the wall and also flops it off of curve 5. Fastest speed going into Kreisel, and look at the alignment of the guys in the back. This is a well-rehearsed team. They've been sliding for such a long time together. Really found their position.
Yeah. Quarter of a second up on Marcus Treichel. This is definitely going to challenge for the medals from Francesco Friedrich. 54-41, that's, I mean, with a great start, and that's a very, again, top draw drive from Francesco Friedrich.
From Kreisel down, this really was a textbook run. A little bit unstable in the middle part of the track between 4 and Kreisel. But it's a choice of not trying to steer too much and just letting the sled go its way.
He'll be literally on home ice in Altenburg in the next couple of weeks.
And that perfect aerodynamic position, everyone in line, very deep into the sled.
Yeah. Channeling the air over those big shoulders of Alexander Schuller right at the back. Spent time in the wind tunnel rehearsing that. So Francesco Friedrich the leader for now, but AC/DC heralds the arrival of Christoph Haufer with Michael Salzer, Matthias Sommer and Tobias Schneider behind him. 4 World Cups here, a 6th, a 4th, an 8th and a 10th for Christoph Haufer, so kind of going in the wrong direction, but bronze in Park City and Lake Placid. He has had a good start to the season.
He always chooses to listen to music, or I'm really curious what would be in his earplugs, because he always gives them to the mechanic in the back right before he starts. So I think that's the question we would have to ask him in interviews. What kind of music is he listening to right before he starts?
2 third-place finishes, his best World Cup results. Can he get a medal for Germany in Winterberg? 5:14 start.
And the best velocity off of the 3rd fastest start, so very good load of the brakeman and side pushers there.
After her win this morning, Lauren Alter said, this track, you have got to make sure you keep the top clean and then let it fly. Well, Francesco kept the top clean. Christoph Haufer now really has to let it fly.
A little bit abrupt exit out of Kreisel. He keeps it in the middle, losing a little bit of speed there compared to Francesco. Smooth looking labyrinth, slight touch there, going uphill.
Tell's skidding around behind him. He's caused it, he's losing speed as a result of that. 54-56.
I think he would have wanted to be a little bit closer to his fellow countrymen.
Francesco and his crew outstarted them by 200s and outdrove him to come down 1500s in front.
And here we can see the load of his crew. Hands on the D-rings, push bar down, and then the guys drop in perfectly straight.
It's their 3rd race together. Matthias Sommer was replaced by Kevin Corona in Lake Placid. Kevin joining this lineup.
And the slow-mo of curve 11 really showed how bumpy the ice is because of these weather conditions, and you can see the guys in the back jumping around.
Yeah. 3rd of our Swiss sleds is Cedric Follodle. Didn't race in the 2-man yesterday, so this is his only race this weekend. 5th World Cup start in 4-man. He's had 4 races here in the Europa Cup and raced in the Junior Worlds in 2020. Nicola Mariani, Dominic Hufschmidt and Marco Dvorak behind him.
5:22. 9 fastest start at 6th velocity. He had a really big run in Whistler and in Lake Placid. Very good results in his four-man sled in the North American part of the World Cup. Interesting now to see how he will do in Europe. And there a little wobble as well, just avoids the tap, but skids going into Kreisel up to 4th speed already. So really building a good run here, 3rd fastest down the hill so far. A little bit climbing there.
World Cup best result, 5th place in Lake Placid. He's on target for a top 5 run at the moment, but that might just have dropped him back a fraction. No, still in the 5, 55 flat.
Really hang it off 13.
Again, that's
he
the moment
didn't want to oversteer it.
The brakemen wonder what's going to make contact first, their backsides back in the sled or their head on the ice.
He was very trusting that the sled would come back to the runners. Didn't do too much of a steer there.
But you've got to believe, haven't it? You know, when you put it in and you think you've got it, you've got to believe you've got it. You can't keep counter-steering.
And here the crossover, just a slight touch, which pushes him away. Touch on the left side, it pushes his sled away and gives the height a little bit later into the labyrinth. And he didn't panic steer, he waited, and it just dropped off.
Either he thought he had it, or he didn't realize he was in danger, one or the other. Well, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I've got it, oh, I have got it. Francesco Friedrich leads from Christoph Haufer and Markus Treichel, with the Swiss Michael Vogt and Cedric Follodle Follodle right behind him. Time now for Hansi Lochner, a winner on this track 3 times, compared to the 7 of Francesco Friedrich, but yesterday's gold medalist in the 2-man, Hansi could easily win this as well.
And just like the Austrian team, decides not to have his 2-man brakeman in the 4-man team. 5:15, 5th fastest start, so I think he will be not so pleased with that, and his team will be looking to improve on it in the 2nd heat.
11th 4-man World Cup here for Hansi. Heat 1 on his debut in 2017.
Very clean looking run. Parallel tap going into Kreisel, 2nd highest speed. And now he's looking to move up. A little bit of a skid there coming out of Kreisel as well, and you can see it in the speeds that he lost a little bit there. Uses curve 10 to get over early to curve 11.
Coming down only 2 sleds behind Christoph Haufer, but not with the speeds that his teammate had. Is this enough for 3rd? It's not. 5th place. So he's 100th behind Michael Vogt and 200ths out of the medals behind Markus Treichel. Are we seeing the track maybe starting to deteriorate a fraction? The late start draw, he wasn't overly keen on that. He said yesterday, I hope it doesn't rain too much.
And we will see it in about 2 minutes when Bradley Hall comes down the hill. Quick load from Johannes. And then you can see Florian Bauer really bending over his helmet
over the driver
and get the push bars in. Exit of curve 11 here.
All right, so Hansi Lochner within a couple of hundreds of the medals. Friedrich still leads, could get a German clean sweep here. We haven't had one in a few years. What about Brad Hall of Great Britain with Aaron Gulliver, Big T Taylor Lawrence, who was in the bronze medal winning sled with him yesterday, and Greg Cackett, who was in the booth yesterday, there in the center at the back. Well, the winners in Lake Placid in the 4-man. Best results here, a couple of silver medals for Brad. He would love to top the podium in Germany.
Nice and efficient load. Push bars in and 5:07.
This is part of what is giving him the opportunity to win races, is race-winning starts from the crews.
Absolutely, and you can really see that these guys have been working very hard in summer to get their load very efficient, to make every step count. be losing. Oh, and a big tap there, and has to work hard to get it out of 6. And he lost a lot of speed at the upper part of the track. Still quite skittish coming there out of Kreisel. And he's just not as fast as he was in the North American part so far.
Back end of the sled is moving around a lot behind him. See, almost every straight, it's breaking into a skid. Only the 7th best speed for Brad Hall. And 6th place at the line. And 500s behind Hansi Lochner.
Coach Graham Richardson, not so happy with that. It might be due to the setup. It might be because of the track is deteriorating, but there were some mistakes that definitely cost him time and speed.
Yeah.
And you can see he's quite disappointed with that.
Well,
this robbed him of some speed as well.
Yeah.
Really hit that take-on of curve 0, and he gets it perfectly down the middle, but that hard bump, and here, transition from 5 to 6, hard bump, has to work hard, drops off, a lot of energy lost into the ice, not moving it forward.
So next up is Emil Tupules, 13th of our 16 starters. Lots of experience behind. Dove Springs, his 28th four-man. Mats Miknes, his 47th four-man, his 93rd World Cup start, Miknes. And even Eggesnemmer at the back, a 13th four-man World Cup race for him. And Emil's, his World Cup debut in the four-man was in St. Moritz in January last year.
Real start powerhouses as well.
Yeah.
5:06. Big push of the Latvian guys. Equal velocity to the British team we just saw. Clean looking curve 0 and curve 1. Really trying to take all the speed he will at the start. A little bit long there, and it pushes him to a slight skid going into curve 5. And a skid there as well.
Really similar to Hall, but big height coming onto the Kreisel.
And also there, just sliding sideways off the curve, not being under the pressure, not being in the pressure. This is a nice transition from 9, 10, 11. Hangs it on there a little bit, but picks it out cleanly out of 13. No big speed though. Only 9 fastest speed, and just collapse it off at the finish.
Look out there. So 54.9, 7th best. And that puts him a 10th ahead of Cedric Follodle and 1400s behind Brad Hall.
You can really see that this year the track is very challenging in the middle. That 4, 5, 6 section is really getting to them.
Just beside the clock there, you can see the white-haired gentleman, Klaus Angermann, legendary German commentator for luge, bobsleigh and skeleton for over 25 years.
And there he was pushed away, late entrance, and didn't control that entrance enough, so he was peaking up in Kreisel. And
I don't understand much Latvian lip reading, but he wasn't overjoyed. Tupules with work to do in the second heat. Is there any speed in the track? Well, maybe we'll find out from Mihai Tentea from Romania, Ciprian Darocci behind him, Mihai Pachianu, and debutant George Jordache at 4. The brakeman has made 4 Europa Cup starts since his debut in November last year. And 6 of Mihai's previous 13 four-man World Cup races have been here in Winterberg. Done a lot of double four-man weekends here in recent years. This track gets a lot of four-man use and abuse.
Very young team, all younger than 24.
Yeah.
Or just turned 24.
So we may well not see them in Altenburg because that's all definitely Junior World Championship age.
5:25 start, little too angular crossover from curve 2 to 3. Sideways there between 5 and 6, but exit of 6 quite okay. Touching that wall and sliding off of 7.
Speed is climbing, 10th best speed.
And no big mistakes, but it's all just a little bit unstable. Good crossover there. takes it off of 13.
Look at that, up to 7th best speed at the line.
When guys popping up already before we are at the finish line.
You saw Julian Pakianu, the coach there.
He was still able to build some speed on the track, so.
Yeah. Well, Mihai had Mihai Pakianu behind him in the 2-man yesterday. Mihai part of the 4-man crew as well. Former skeleton slider, now firmly a bobsledder. Crossed over to the dark side.
And there the load of the Romanian team. Brakeman a little bit sideways there, loading into the sled. And you can see a lot of the number 3 helmet there from high, and they're popping up already.
Yep.
Trying to get on the brakes, and we could see it was necessary because they were still going through the exit gate.
Well, he is 900s behind Seaman Friedli and 900s ahead of Mattia Variola. And that might be the sort of territory that see Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic fall into, with debutant David Buresh behind him, a rugby player, spent 7 years playing pro rugby in France at Limoges and Macon. The flanker only became a bobsledder in the summer. Jakim Prochaska and Dominik Zaleski are the remaining sliders in the crew. Zaleski was on Adam Dobeš's 2-man sled yesterday.
Dominik's been around as a pilot for quite some seasons now. Was very competitive at the start. And now a 5:21.
Top 10 start. Let's see what the track has got in store for him. Again, the golden rule, don't give it away before corner 5.
Just avoids that wall, keeps it parallel and avoids that expansion joint. A little wobble there coming out of 6, but avoids the tap going into Kreisel. Bringing it back to 8 fastest speed going into curve 9.
And
Flat line.
Pretty much where Mihai Tentea was, the previous sled.
A little bit of a dip and wave there in curve 11. Crosses over out of 13, avoids the tap going uphill into 14. 7th fastest speed.
Yeah, quicker than Tentea. 9th place. That's a good run from Dominik Dvorak, his first World Cup 4-man of the season.
And there you can see he has a lot of experience on this track as a driver.
Yeah. 36th 4-man race as a driver. He was a brakeman as well. 11 4-man starts, predominantly with Jan Verber.
I think it's safe to say that the track is holding up, even though the weather conditions are not ideal.
Well, he's a 10-900 meter man, Dominik Dvorak. Dominik Zaleski is the Czech record holder at 10.1600. So there's plenty of speed in those engines.
Oh, and you can see the guys wobble around on the bumpy ice. It's very hard for the track workers to keep it in a good shape when it's this humid and quite warm.
There's David Buresh, the debutant. And our final sled in the first of our 2 heats, Li Chunjan of China, with Ding Song, Ye Jilong, and Wu Qingzi. Only raced 4-man World Cup in St. Moritz and Winterberg. Li, twice in St. Moritz, 3 times previously in Winterberg. This is his 6th 4-man World Cup start.
And you really can see in the zoomed-in screen that it's still pouring rain outside.
Yep. The umbrellas are all up.
In and down, 5:13.
Yeah.
Very good push of the Chinese team. Very impressive 4th fastest start.
We saw that in the women's competition this morning. The Chinese starting is getting very strong. They were quick in the 2-man as well.
Looking good so far. And there, I jinxed this into the skid.
Easily done.
And there's skid and touch as well on both bumpers going into Kreisel. A little bit wavy.
Speed. Not now, though.
Losing a little bit of that speed. Up and down, waving in curve 9. Avoiding the early entrance into 11, and really late means you have to do a lot of work. And brings it back.
Saved by the wall.
You could see that
Man.
crossover into 11. is the one that cost him that mistake in 13.
Well, best World Cup result on this track for him in 3 previous outings, 15th place. Look where he is right now, 15th out of 16 sleds. But yeah, look at that.
He's going to be really angry with himself.
Just a little moment. He played a get out of jail card there, not intentionally, but the wall saved them.
And now let's hope that the guys are okay, the sled is okay. But that was a problem that started building from curve 9 already. So you can see here crossing over from 12 to 13, hitting and being pushed away, which means your height doesn't get in the beginning of the curve, but you push the height to the end of the curve and there is no more room to turn it. So you get the late height and the weight just takes you down to the wall, and the wall and the heads that actually push him back up.
Yeah.
So I hope the guys are okay, because that looks really rough.
Yeah.
And it's all because of that mistake out of curve 9.
It's done in a second in real speed, but they're doing nearly 130 kilometers an hour, nearly 80 miles an hour at that stage. So that is a big hit on the helmet.
I hope they're all fine.
It looks like they're all out. They all seem to be moving around happily, so hopefully they'll be ready to go in the second heat. Our leader, though, will be the man who is injured, Francesco Friedrich. 7 wins on this track since his debut. And that was back in 2015-16, his first win. Is he going to do it again? Well, he's got a lead, and you don't often want to give Francesco Friedrich a lead. Second fastest start in the competition, 3rd fastest, I beg your pardon, despite the fact that he's not really pushing, he's just keeping up with the sled. Christoph Haufer, 2nd. Marcus Treichel in 3rd from Mikkel Vogt, Hansi Lochner and Brad Hall. There's a big sort-out coming. And then this little group behind, Dvorak, Austin, Kalender and Friedli. And then 900s, Mihai Tentea behind that, and 900s ahead of Mattia Variola. So all sorts of action ready to go in the second and deciding heat. Join us for that. Meanwhile, try and have as much fun as Marco the mechanic is. We will hopefully see the end of the rain, but we will certainly see the final race, the final leg here. Until then, bye for now.
Ansonsten Markus Treichel, Geier im Komplex immer so weit vorne, macht eine Hauptüberraschung, aber einfach auch nicht immer. Ja, natürlich, im Gegensatz zu Michael Vogt, also wir haben ja mit der Wohnung mit der Vogt ganz vorne auf der Mitte. Naja, und das ist schon dann so, naja, wir haben ein kleines Experten verloren. Absolut, wir sind völlig raus. Wir können froh sein, wenn wir den zweiten Lauf antworten wollen. Ja, so, was willst du machen? Wir haben das Vortrag, wir haben das Ganze nur in den Vortrag so angekündigt. Dieser will es nicht so richtig und ich glaube, der Wechsel auf Karte so nach sich. Ja, das weiß er selber. Ich habe gesagt, also für Baustellen, Schwung, das ist auch nicht mehr, die Geweber, ganz easy, ganz easy, das steht da. Also, das war auf jeden Fall ein überraschender, ein spannender Lauf. Das ist alles überschrieben, dass die Führung von Frankreich so friedlich überraschend wird. Das ist alles wirklich überraschend, aber wie gesagt, alle, die es mitbekommen haben, Frankreich so friedlich ist angeschlagen, ist verletzt, ist ein Sechser geworden im Zweierbox. Heute liegt er nach dem letzten Lauf vorne und jetzt hast du einen letzten Versuch bei dem Weltcup. Ja, das verboten wird. Paul Kretschler kann das nicht gewinnen. 16:09, habe schon also das dieses Jahr in den zweiten Durchgang. 23 Jahre runter, oder das ist so von den anderen Kaufmann zu warten. Wir werden auf jeden Fall wieder diesen letzten Lauf von dem IBSF Top und Challenge Weltcup 2023 mit der Weltcup miteinander genießen und feiern. Vielen Dank, Frau Kretschler.